You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Arya Whitner, and this is your NXT update for Wednesday, June 7, 2017. Thank you all for listening. We kick things off this week with a match featuring Tucker Knight and Otis Dozovich, Heavy Machinery, taking on Lars Sullivan and Victor Andrews. Now, you might recall a few weeks ago, Lars Sullivan competed in a tag team match, playa, and he dominated the match. His partner lost the match for the team, and then Sullivan beat him down afterwards. So would he fare better this week with Victor Andrews? Andrews certainly thought so, as he cut a pre-match inset promo saying he was ready for this opportunity. Sullivan went in there and tossed around Tucker Knight quite easily, being the only person that seems to have the better of these two men. He actually caught Tucker Knight when Knight went for a crossbody and dropped him with a nice-looking power slam. Andrews tagged himself in, and ladies and gentlemen, it all went downhill from there. Andrews got in zero offense, none, zilch, nada, zero, zilch. And he was the victim of the tossing bear hug, which you recall that's where Knight picks him up in a bear hug and then tosses him in the air into the waiting arms of Otis Dozovich. The babyfaces picked up the win with the compactor, which is their assisted big splash, while Sullivan watched angrily from the apron. After the match, after Heavy Machinery left, Sullivan got back in the ring, not for sportsmanship, not to pick up his partner, dust him off, and say, golly gee, we'll get him next time. No. Sullivan destroyed Victor Andrews even more, putting the boots to him. He lifted up Andrews and dropped him with a choke slam, and then tortured him with an over-the-shoulder backbreaker. Last week, No Way Jose returned and prevented Killian Dane from interfering in the Roderick Strong-Eric Young match. And afterwards, Christy St. Cloud, who has finally returned, told them about this week's main event. Dane said that No Way Jose is not safe. Roderick Strong was out next for a promo. He said the last year has been a roller coaster for him. He's here on NXT. He has a beautiful fiancée and a handsome baby boy. But what took his breath away was that he was able to stand here and tell his story to the entire NXT universe, and everyone accepted him for it. He thanked the fans and said his life has never been better, but there's only one thing he wants, one thing he needs, and that is the NXT Championship, which brought out the oh-so glorious NXT champion Bobby Roode. Roode went from the curtain to the middle of the ramp, and this 50-foot walk took him a full 40 seconds to do. I tell you, he's really trying to break slow walk records in sports entertainment history. He pretended to cry as he said all the great things Strong has done. He's finally winning matches, which got a very audible gasp from the crowd. He said Strong has a moderately attractive fiancée and a relatively normal son, and now he wants to play the Bobby Roode lottery. But this is Bobby Roode's NXT. You don't just click your heels together to get title shots. You earn them. He said Strong is a good hand, and maybe one day Roode will even take a selfie with him, and Strong can go home and show his son that he knows the champ. His last piece of advice to Strong was do not play the Bobby Roode lottery because he's not man enough to win. Strong, by the way, had no rebuttal to this, which I thought was weird. Speaking of weird, Nikki Cross is backstage banging on a locker and violently slamming her jacket on the ground while screaming about Asuka and Ruby Riott, which is convenient enough timing because up next we had a graphic reminding us that next week on this very program, Asuka, Nikki, Ruby, triple threat, elimination match for the NXT Women's Championship. We had another Authors of Pain highlight video package narrated by Paul Ellering. Then we had women's action with Sarah Logan, who, according to Nigel McGuinness, used to wrestle a goat when she was a child, going one-on-one with the gorgeous Peyton Royce. Unfortunately for Logan, goat wrestling did not help her, as Royce took her head off the spin kick, allowed Logan to spin her head back on before locking on an STF. Logan got out of it, and as part of her comeback, she used punches to the breast, and then Royce came back, hit a running knee to the face, and won with a perfect plex. After last week's loss, where he slipped on a banana peel after controlling 99% of the match, Andrade Cien Almas was going out to party when he ignored an announcer who tried to ask about his losses. Thea Trinidad, who was unnamed, walked up and slapped him in the face for being a loser. They had a commercial for the Seth Rollins DVD, which I did check out recently, and I completely forgot that phase that he had where he always wore a stupid-looking hat. And it even continued when he got called up to the main roster. And I must say, he looks so much better now that he doesn't wear a stupid hat. Hideo Itami versus Oni Lorcan. Earlier today, Itami said he is not going back to Japan despite losing one match, which I guess is good because he's lost more than one match in his NXT career. Itami used the same hard strikes he always uses, but apparently this time it means he's taking out his frustrations on Lorcan. Percy Watson keeps calling it Kobayashi style, and I know sometimes I look away from the screen for a second or three, but I missed where Tommy started having a hot dog eating contest in the middle of his matches. I mean, that's the only Kobayashi I can think of. He then said Percy Watson then said Lorcan is called the Collector in Boston. I must say I've been to Boston a lot, and while I've never met Lorcan, at least, outside of a wrestling venue, because I used to watch him a lot on indie shows, but every time I've ever heard somebody say that someone was a collector while in Boston, they sure as hell weren't talking about him. As I talked about that, Lorcan came back and beat the snot out of Itami. Hideo went for a GTS, but Lorcan was having none of that shit. He slapped and chopped Itami right in the face with full vim. Itami then injured his knee, and it sucks. He's sitting down in the corner. The referee may have to stop this one, but oh Lord, it's a miracle. Itami's well, folks. He kicks Lorcan in the knee, stood up, hit a go to sleep, and instead of making the cover, he picked up Oni and hit him with a second go to sleep. Itami was still angry about those slaps to the face, so he dragged Lorcan to his feet and hit a third GTS. Itami was going to go to sleep him over and over again when Cassius Ohno jogged out to stop him. Itami shoved Ono, so Ono shoved him right back. Ono looked to be on the verge of tears as Itami rolled out of the ring and away. The referee called for the bell, and the match apparently ended in a no contest, even though Itami completely dominated it, then should be declared the winner. But you can't win them all, I guess. Christy St. Cloud asked Ember Moon about what she thinks about the women's title match next week. Moon said that she's going to watch the title match, but she's going to take care of Peyton Royce and Billie Kay first before going back for the title. That led to our main event, No Way Jose in his first match since Sanity attacked him at Access before NXT TakeOver Orlando. Going one-on-one with Killian Dane in Dane's first singles match, allegedly. Doesn't seem right, but that's what the announcer said. Anyway, Sanity has new theme music, and in my opinion, it is quite awful. They need to drop it immediately and go back to the original song. Jose got the early advantage, booting Dane to the outside. This is just showing how much No Way Jose loved to have fun. I'm still waiting for the day when a heel cuts a promo saying how much he hates to have fun. Dane stayed outside just long enough so we could go for a commercial for 205 Live and for the first annual Great Balls of Fire. After that, Dane was back in the ring and hammering away on Jose. I'd like to note that Dane is learning the main event chin lock, so this boy has a bright future ahead of him. Jose fought out of the Ulster Plantation and hit a TKO, and Dane kicked out of that at the last possible second. Jose went for the wind-up punch, but Dane headbutted him, hit a corner drop kick, and the Ulster Plantation for the win. As noted by the announcers, Dane was out here all by himself. There was no Sanity to interfere on his behalf. Dane won this match clean as a sheet. So that does it for this week. Next week, Asuka defends her title again. Does she continue a streak longer than Goldberg, or come to an end in just 7 days? Well, until then, thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you again then.